There's always a lot of responsibility when it comes to why a team is on a losing run. So let's start at the top. Why the Magic Stars have to do more and be set up to do more today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is February 1st. It will be February 2nd, 2025. It may just already be February 2nd. Happy Groundhog Day. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic fall once again to the Utah Jazz, 113-99. Same culprits as always. So let's diagnose what is at the heart of the problem, besides the fact the Magic just cannot make a dang shot to save their life. We're going to get to the responsibility of the Stars, all three of them, coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic an even bigger part of your day, Monday through Friday, with the Locked On Magic daily newsletter. It's the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is 1 week away. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. We know the Orlando Magic's formula. Like, we know the formula. We could talk about the shortcomings, and we'll get to those in a minute. We could talk about what this team doesn't have and understand that the Magic have to add these things. That the Magic can't just sit still, whether it's at the deadline or in the offseason. They're not where they want to be, and it is about the roster. The roster has severe shortcomings that need to be resolved and need to be solved. We'll talk about them all week long heading into Thursday's trade deadline. But this group, as they stand now, can still win and still win at a pretty high level. We know the formula for them to do so. It is elite defensive attention and energy. It is forcing turnovers, harassing and being the more physical team, making teams feel you at every moment and every turn. It's turning that defense into offense. And we're going to get to that in the second segment of today's show. We'll talk about where the defensive energy and where the defensive intensity has gone. But it's not just about that. We know this offense is going to struggle. We know that they're not going to be able to always put the pieces together, that they're going to have moments where they don't work. And that's why the defense has to be elite, why defense is the first thing we have to mention. But the Magic have one thing offensively that works really well for them. The basis for everything to sprout from. And it is the intensity and unique properties that are Paolo, Banchero, and Franz Wagner. The Magic have two all-star level players that do things so few players in this league do. They are 6'10" forwards who can play, make, create, get downhill, put tension on the defense, force the defense to collapse, and then either finish over the defense or kick out to open shooters. And again, we'll get to that. But the question that has been increasingly asked over the last 2 weeks especially is what happens when that's not always there? What happens when the Magic's offense, already pretty poor, doesn't have its usual lift from its two-star players? This is the question. This is what has made every other weakness on the team feel greater, feel bigger, feel more pressing. The fact of the matter is, and I'm even going to say this after this game, Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero aren't right yet. And for the Magic to get back to where they want to be, it starts with their stars. I've said this a lot over the last week, especially. Teams get their energy from their leaders. Their leaders lead the way. It's unfair to lay that all on their shoulders. It's unfair to put all that burden on two players. But that's the fact of the matter. In a group, your leaders are your energy. And this team is led by Jalen Suggs, currently out with a quad contusion. We'll talk about him in the second segment. Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. When the Magic guards have been successful for the little moments, the little victories, as they said after the game, as they're trying to find their way out of this, they've been successful because Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero played well. The Magic have lost 8 of their last 9 games. That one win, Paolo Banchero had 32 points, and then Franz Wagner struggled for the first 3 quarters, and the Magic were down, scored 25 of his 32 in the fourth quarter, and the Magic ran away for the victory. The Magic were cruising through the first 3.5 quarters against the Miami Heat in their next game. Franz Wagner was dominant in that game. Paolo Banchero was playing pretty well. They were finding a nice little scoring routine. And then they get to that final 6 minutes of regulation and then into overtime. And Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero couldn't carry them over the finish line. This is the NBA. One player, one great player, has an outsized effect on the game. And this Magic team, especially because they lack enough creators, because they lack shooting, they need their 2 star players to lead the way. Now, this maybe isn't the game to throw Franz Wagner into that. Franz Wagner figured it out. 37 points, 8 for 21 shooting, 3 for 11 from 3, 18 for 20 from the foul line, becoming just the 6th player in Magic history to shoot 20 free throws in a game. Franz Wagner at 12 points in the first quarter was carrying the Magic offensively just by getting to the foul line, just by putting pressure on the rim and finding ways to score. On a night where he did not shoot well by any means, Franz still put his imprint on the game. That's what stars have to do, and that's something Paolo Banchero has been very good at over the course of his career. Even if he is not shooting well, and he has not been an efficient shooter throughout his career, even if he is not shooting well, he gets to the line, he creates tension in the defense, he kicks out, and look, he had 6 assists, so I'm not going to say he was terrible on that. He had 3 turnovers, 3 of the Magic's 8 turnovers. Turnovers weren't the issue in this game. He's able to kick out, he's able to still make things happen. But with the deficits the Magic are facing right now, with not just on the roster, but actual score deficits they're facing, the Magic need their star player to step up. They need their star player to be dominant. And Paolo, 9 points, 4 for 19 shooting, 0 for 6 from 3, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 turnovers. He shot 1 for 12 in the first half, only 3 points at halftime. That's why the Magic found themselves down by double digits. It is impossible to win shooting the way the Magic are shooting. Like, just plainly, they shot 33%. Cole Anthony acknowledged after the game, yeah, you're not going to win a game shooting 33% unless the other team's shooting 33%. The Magic were 9 for 41 from 3. Again, just kind of showing that they settled from 3 a little bit. There were a lot of possessions where the Magic needed a good shot, and they just took a 1-pass 3 or no pass 3. There's a lot going on with this Magic offense right now. And I'm going to say it. It starts with your stars. Your stars have to set the tone with how they move the ball and the kind of shots they're getting. And right now, Franz has figured some things out. Franz came back 2 weeks ago. He looks a lot better than Paolo Banchero, who came back 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks ago. Paolo is still figuring out how to find his rhythm and how to find himself. And look, better shooting, better spacing would help them. Only Cole Anthony scored in double figures besides Franz Wagner in this game. Cole Anthony had 23 points. He was 7 for 11 from the floor, 2 for 5 from 3, 7 for 7 from the foul line, getting to the foul line again. 7 rebounds, 4 assists, just 1 turnover. He had 12 of his 23 points in the fourth quarter. And what do you know? Orlando scored 30 points in that quarter, won the quarter 30-28, made a little bit of a push to get it down to as little as 12. But again, that's the thing. The Magic are down by so much. They're just giving away so many points. They don't have a lifeline. That lifeline is supposed to be their stars. And Franz is, I think, still on a minute restriction. He played 33 minutes in this game. He's played 30 minutes now pretty regularly. I don't think he's necessarily on a minute restriction, but by the time we got to the end of the game, the very end of the game, you could tell he was gassed. You could tell he was tired. You could tell he'd given everything he could. The way the Magic get out of this mess is through their stars, through their best players playing the way we know they are capable of playing. Setting the tone defensively and physically to say, this is how we're going to play. And quite frankly, right now, that's inconsistent. It's not entirely their fault. They're coming back from major injuries. I think Paolo is, I've described it this way before. Paolo seems to be playing his own game and playing what he needs to do rather than necessarily what the game needs him to do. And that's kind of what he needs, but it's also bad for the team. I do think with Paolo's struggles, Jamal Mosley needs to get him the ball in different ways and find different ways to get him his shots. I don't want to absolve Jamal Mosley in any of this. It's an everyone problem where they have to do things to make it easier for their stars. And again, when we get to the trade deadline, when we get to what comes next, it's all about how do we make the stars' job easier? How do we make it so Paolo and Franz have the space to be as good as we know they can be? The stars matter. This is the NBA. And while Franz had a very strong game, Paolo didn't. And right now, with the limitations on this roster, with the struggles that this team is having to shoot, with the struggles with the defense, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, the Magic Stars are not stepping up to the plate. The Magic Stars are not giving this team everything that they need on a nightly basis. And there is, frankly, no way this Magic team can win without it. The margin for error is too small. And again, that speaks to other issues that we'll talk about. But everything for this team starts with their leaders, starts with their best players. And their best players right now are not consistently up to the task. They'll get there, though. I want to, I don't want to be too overly critical. Paolo had a bad game, and he's had a bunch of bad games. And this team needs Paolo to have good games. He's got the ball so much that we know he can be better, and the Magic are waiting for him to break through and find it. It's tough for him. It's been tough. There's no denying it. I'm sure he's as frustrated as everyone else is. But they'll get there. They'll get there. The bigger issue, though, as much as the shooting is a big issue, and it is a big issue, it's a huge issue. The bigger issue, though, is the Magic's defense continues to struggle in a very real way. We'll talk about the energy deficit that's been missing since Jalen Suggs got hurt, and even since Mo Wagner got hurt. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at TurboTax. Intuit TurboTax, I should say. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back. And then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. As much as we want to talk about the offense, like I said earlier, we know the offense is not going to be good. Like it just kind of is at this point. The Magic's offense is going to be bad. And again, we'll solve that when we get to the trade deadline. We'll solve that when we get to the offseason. Jeff Weltman and his staff, his goal right now should be, how do we make this offense better? And how can we advance this team so that the burden isn't so heavy on Paolo and Franz? Like, again, I want to repeat this. The goal for the Magic moving forward is, if we're going to spend this season, we'll talk maybe bigger season goals a little bit later on this week, but if the Magic were going to spend this season trying to figure out the team's limitations and where Paolo and Franz's limitations are, quite frankly, then very clearly getting them some playmaking help, getting them, I'm not saying point guard help, playmaking help. I think there's a distinction there, but getting them some playmaking help, getting some shooting, like it's obvious the kind of things the Magic have to find to take this team from where they are to where they need to be. Just plain and simple. We're not hiding that. We're not ducking it. We know what the task ahead of the Magic is. But we also know that the key to this team's success is its defense. And the Magic's defense has not been good. Even though in January, even in that disastrous January, the 4-11 January that the Magic just completed, Orlando still finished 14th in the league in defensive rating, 113.7 points allowed per 100 possessions. But that's the thing. This Magic team cannot survive being just average on defense. If the offense was a little bit better, maybe they could. If the offense weren't the absolute worst offense in the league in January, maybe they go 5-10. Maybe they go 6-9. That's that's not a good month, but it's manageable. You can work with it. You don't feel the panic that we're feeling right now among Magic fans if you play that way. But such as it is, that's how it is. That's what it is. That's, the Magic are what they are at this point. But defense is so vital to who this team is. And watching the Magic play defense over the last week especially has been frustrating because we know how good this team can be. And yet they're giving up easy drives. They're fouling a ton. It's like whatever rhythm they've lost shooting, they've now lost it defensively too. And it doesn't even feel like a lot of the times the Magic are the hardest working team on the floor. Effort makes up for a lot. And I think there's a fair thing to say that, okay, the Magic's try hard, crazy effort, that might add them a couple wins in the regular season, but in the playoffs, when everybody's playing with that intensity, the weaknesses start to pop out. I'm not going to disagree there. The Magic, though, are at an energy deficit right now. They have a lot of, I don't want to say low energy players, but they have a lot of guys who are a more laid back approach to things. Goga Batadze, one of their big energy guys, has had good moments, but he still looks like he missed 2 weeks and is trying to find his way back. He looks like he lost his rhythm and lost his kind of center. I don't have an excuse for Anthony Black. Anthony Black's just been terrible on defense, and we know how good he can be, and he's so young, and he's just still so inconsistent. But at the end of the day, this is what the Magic look like without Jalen Suggs. Orlando's overall defensive rating is 4th in the league at 108.6. They're still one of the top defenses in the league. They're the only team with a top 10 defense with a negative net rating. That tells you how bad the offense has been. Orlando's offense is still 29th in the league. They're still better than the Wizards. But the Magic's defense has been the bread and butter of this team. And right now it's struggling. Right now it is struggling to find itself. Since Jalen Suggs' injury on January 3rd, so I will include the game against the Pistons. Since January 4th, the day after Jalen Suggs' injury, the Magic have a defensive rating of 114.3. That's 16th in the league since then. 114.3. You go from 107 to 114. That is a 7-point difference with this team's offense. That's not good. Let's take it back a little further. Since Mo Wagner's injury on December 21st, so December 22nd to today, the Orlando Magic are still 7th in the league in defensive rating at 111.9. That's with some Jalen Suggs games. It's with 2 more weeks of Jalen Suggs, but without Mo Wagner, a big energy guy, not necessarily on defense, but a big one on offense. The Magic 101.8 offensive rating since Mo Wagner's injury, which is 2 points per 100 possessions worse than 29th, the Wizards. The Magic are missing their heartbeats, their energy guys. And you can kind of see it and feel it when they're on when the Magic are on the floor. You can kind of Jalen Suggs, obviously, especially. If you look at the 4 factors, opponent turnover rate. Orlando's 3rd in the league in forcing turnovers. They force a 17.2% turnover rate, which means opponents turn the ball over on 17.2% of their possessions. In January, so even including some Jalen Suggs games, but most of them not, in January, the opponent turnover rate was 16.5%. It's pretty good. A lot better than I thought it would be, actually, but still down from where the Magic are at. Let's take it since the Pistons game. That would have been the 8th. So since, sorry, not the 8th, the 11th. Since January 12th then, after the Pistons game, that's not the Pistons game, hold on, sorry, excuse me. Since January 12th, since January 19th, January 19th, when was the Pistons game? This last week, sorry. I'm trying to look these numbers up on the fly. The Magic's opponent turnover rate's down to 15.9%. Like I said, we know the offense is going to struggle and the defense has to do everything it can to push this offense forward. But this defense is missing critical, foundational things about it. Critical, foundational things. Things that maybe you can't quite calculate or things that you can't quite decipher or count, but things that you can clearly see. Jalen Suggs shouldn't be this important. Mo Wagner, frankly, shouldn't be this important. But in losing those 2 players, you lose heartbeats of this team. You lose guys with a bit of an edge, with guys who aren't afraid to interact with the crowd or do things that up the energy level, that bring everybody up with them. It's not that Paolo can't. It's not that Franz can't. It's not that like Cole Anthony can't. Cole Anthony tries his hardest. But the Magic are at an energy deficit. Mo Wagner thinks about one thing and one thing only, offense. He is a scorer. He is a crafty scorer who will find ways to put pressure on the defense and just score in a different way. It's why the bench is suddenly, I mean, obviously injuries have gutted the bench too, but it's why the bench has struggled so much since the injuries. Since his injury especially, because they lost one of their best scorers. And it's why so much of my trade deadline focus is get me a creator off the bench that can play a little bit with the starters perhaps, but really anchor those bench units so Paolo and Franz don't have to do so much or be on the floor at all times to score the basketball. I don't know. You can't replace what Jalen Suggs gives you. But the Magic got to find a way to at least pretend to match his energy. And that's so much at the heart of what the Magic do. That's so much that's essential to who the Magic are. And they shouldn't need only one player to do that, and they shouldn't lose it after losing one player or even 2 players. But right now, that part of them is missing. And again, as much as the shooting is hurt, as much as everything else is hurt, this energy, this resiliency, this never say die attitude, that's what makes the Orlando Magic. That's what makes this team successful. That's what makes this team so potentially good. And they are struggling to make up that deficit right now. Like, I mean, I want to, like, we'll get to the box score here in a minute, but let's just cut it to basics. The Magic can win without shooting. Maybe not shooting this bad, certainly not shooting this bad, but they found ways to win without shooting the ball well. Are they going to win a championship? Are they going to win a playoff series without shooting the ball well? Absolutely not. I'm not saying to ignore that need or ignore that. But you got to ask yourself, what makes the Orlando Magic special? What makes this group special when they're working? And it's that energy. And when they get beat, because they don't have enough energy, you get what the situation the Magic are in right now, where they can't compete. And so forget anything else. Like, honestly, like, Jamal Mosley seemed pretty okay with the loss. I'm not. There's just so many issues, and the shots are just so bad, and you're not getting what you need from your starting players. Like, it's clear what this team's weaknesses are, but he seemed pretty happy with the energy, or at least content with the energy, especially after they had such a poor energy game against Portland. And they're still having moments where they get punched in the mouth and the energy just goes away and they're done. And you can kind of feel them go through it again and say, here we go again. The Magic aren't going to win until they win the energy game, until they are the more energetic team. They cut the 20-point lead down to 12, had some opportunities with too little time remaining to further in the game. They could have won this game if they could have shot the ball decently well, but they're letting their offense dictate their energy instead of letting their defense dictate their energy. Letting their defense dictate their offense or help feed their offense a little bit. And, maybe a trade will happen on Thursday, but until then, nothing's going to change until they win the energy battle. Until they just play all out for 48 minutes and don't let the other team out-effort them. If they do that, they have a chance to win. If they could shoot 30, they could shoot 35% and they'll have a chance to win. Because effort wins in this league, at least in the regular season. And right now, the Magic's effort and energy are not at the levels they need to be. The margin for error is too small to give away possessions, to be imprecise, to let the other team impose their will on you. And Jalen Suggs' return, whenever it happens, is going to help fix some of this. But I think we can clearly see that the issues the Magic are facing go much deeper than just one player. And the Magic need to kind of rebuild their identity once again. That was long-winded. Sorry, I went a little long there. Let's talk a little bit about the box score. There's not much to say. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is 1 week away. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, tails never fails, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's just icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, an official partner of Super Bowl 59. Let's run through the box score real fast as the Orlando Magic fall to the Utah Jazz 113-99. Like I said, maybe I needed to speak more specifically about this game, but the energy deficit is very, very real. And you could just tell right from the beginning of the game that the Magic were kind of caught on this. They were down 31-21. Look, they missed a lot of shots early. shots that they should be making. You could begin to see some frustration. They took some quick threes, and really they took some quick threes throughout the game. I don't necessarily hate that they took 41 threes. There were some bad ones in there. If you've listened to me, you know that I do believe the Magic need to take threes. I don't think they should abandon the three-pointer. I think their ideal number of attempts is probably like 37, 38. So 41 doesn't bother me that much. Them taking 23 or 29 or whatever it was in Thursday's game against Portland bothered me a little bit. But, look, take a lot, don't take a lot. They're just not making enough. You give up 15 points on three-pointers, and usually the Magic are very good at making up those that 3-point deficit through two things. First is their free throws. And the Magic got to the line a lot. 30 for 35 shooting from the foul line. They really struggled to get to the line against Portland on Thursday. I think that was a big reason why they lost that game so handily. But again, 20 of those 35 free throws came from Franz Wagner. Paolo Banchero couldn't get to the line to save his life, and you could see him getting frustrated by that. He's been frustrated a few times at his inability to get to the line. The Magic got to find a way to create points, and that's all about creating tension. That's all about forcing the defense to foul you. Defenses right now, or offenses right now against the Magic are doing and the Magic aren't a great team at stopping drives. They're really good at stopping 3-point attempts. Utah had 35. It's a pretty good number. They made 14. That's not a good number, 40%. But, again, 14 should be manageable. Orlando averages, I think still averages like 11, 12, or at least when they're at their peak, they're averaging 11, 12. Getting beat 14 to 12 on the 3-point line, that's fine. I didn't necessarily hate the Magic's 3-point defense. It just looks worse because the Magic can't score. But the Magic allowed 24 free throws. They let Utah get to line for 24 free throws. The free throw rate, if you allow me to do some math real fast, was 28.6%. That's not pretty good. Orlando at 35 over 91 was 38.5. So, Orlando was getting to the line plenty, and that helps kind of feed your offense a little bit. But they're struggling, there's just not enough guys who can attack off the dribble. Like, honestly, I had that big discussion about the Stars and them having to do more. So much of that is just simply they have the ball in their hands a lot. Franz and Paolo combined for 40 of the Magic's 91 field goal attempts. The rest of the starters only had 15. Goga Bitadze was 1 for 2, 3 points, 8 rebounds. He was okay. He had 2 blocks. Offensively, he is not the same player quite yet as he was earlier. They're not running plays for him, but he looked hesitant to try and score around the basket on putbacks. Again, Walker Kessler might have a little bit to do with that. Kessler finished with 15 rebounds and a block, but again, he looks off. Anthony Black, 4 points, 1 for 7 shooting. He looks way off. Honestly, I'm glad Anthony Black got named to the Rising Stars game. He's an injury replacement, deserves it. Really good player. Has had a good year, has had a good second season. He is not playing the way the Magic need to play, especially playing starters minutes in Jalen Suggs' stead. Just so inconsistent as a scorer, so inconsistent as a driver, looks unsure of himself. Right now is not defending at the level that we know he can defend at. You just go through and this is going to be the case all year. You just go through the list and say, these guys are not playing at the level that the Magic need them to play at. Tristan da Silva, I thought, was okay in about 25 minutes, 9 points, 3 for 6 shooting, 1 for 3 from 3, 4 rebounds, was playing the 2 guard, struggled a little bit defensively in that role, but, the Magic have to find him shots. And again, this is part of the problem with the Magic's offense right now is Paolo and Franz are your only 2 main drivers. So they have a lot of shot decisions, a lot of kind of decisions in their hands, which is a good thing. I think that's still the right way to go. But it's all about them distributing and passing. And Paolo sometimes gets lost or gets caught. Franz is an improved passer, but is not a natural passer yet. And he's able to score so easily. It's the Magic. And I think this is on Jamal Mosley. I don't want to absolve Jamal Mosley. I think he has to do more offensively to make things easier and find ways to keep others involved. And you'll probably be saying well, that's what a point guard does, dummy. And yeah, you're right. That's where the Magic do miss a point guard, is making sure that they keep everybody involved, whether it's getting Goga Bitadze a touch on a pick and roll, whether it is, with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who sat this game out for rest, just getting him a look, just kind of keeping him in rhythm. I think that's been part of his problem this year, is the Magic are such kind of a laissez-faire, go out there, make a read, figure it out offense. They don't always keep their shooters in rhythm. So I'm, honestly, yes, get a volume shooter. The Magic need guys who can set their own shots up a little bit. They need creators. They need playmakers. They need guys who they need another player who can get downhill. That's why Cole Anthony's game was such a refresher. He had 23 points again, 12 of his 23 in the fourth quarter, 7 for 11 shooting, 2 for 5 from 3, 7 for 7. Cole Anthony, say what you want about him. He's got major limitations. Those limitations are always on display. That dude is playing so hard to give himself a chance, to give, you can't take him off the floor because he is the one guy demonstrably playing harder than everybody. I know people are giving him grief for diving for loose balls and nearly diving at people's legs a few times after the Jaden Ivey injury and everything. I don't think he's a dirty player. He's just trying. He knows he has to make up for his height and his defensive deficiencies by just trying hard. That's what you want to see. If every player played with the intensity that Cole Anthony is trying to play with, and he's not always successful with it, but trying to play with, the Magic would be in a much better position right now. Honestly, Franz Wagner obviously had a weird but great game to score 37 points. Cole Anthony was just so vital. And again, that fourth quarter had some moments. That fourth quarter looked really good. And it's because they had Cole and Franz as two scoring options. They played off of each other. They ran pick and rolls for each other, even with Cole as the screener. And they just did some things to try and get themselves going. Honestly, Jett Howard, he had 5 points, 2 for 10 shooting, 1 for 5 from 3. Wasn't efficient at all. Fouled a ton. 5 fouls in 19 minutes. But you could just tell he was trying. You could tell the effort was there. The energy was there. And I don't think it's a coincidence. Cole Anthony, the Magic were +6 in Cole Anthony's minutes in a game. They lost by 14 and trailed by 20 for most of it. They split. They were even on Jett Howard's minutes. Jonathan Isaac, another guy, 3 points. 1 for 3 shooting, made a 3, didn't do much else statistically, but was just there. It was just a presence around the game that Utah had to account for. It was, no one else was really imposing themselves on the game. Again, Paolo was just trapped and frustrated and couldn't get his shots to fall. Franz found a way to the foul line. No one else was really doing much of anything. And you could feel the frustration. I don't want to take away from that. You can feel the frustration that this team is feeling at every turn. But the Magic the Magic are the only ones that are going to pull themselves out of this. Honestly, Utah played a great game. Go listen to our friend David Locke on Locked On Jazz tomorrow morning when he posts his episode. They snapped their 8-game losing streak. They played well. I don't want to take anything away from them. There's even I can even make the case, we're all obsessed about Colin Sexton right now. He had 22 points, 6 for 15 shooting, 9 for 9 from the foul line, 8 assists. I wouldn't even say he necessarily had this fantastic game, but Lauri Markkanen was 4 for 12. He only made 4 threes for 12 points. He had 11 rebounds too. He had 3 turnovers. The Magic had some good moments. They A, couldn't make enough shots to make it matter, and B, gave up shots at the worst times, and had these just baffling defensive lapses that kept them from getting back in the game. The Magic got it down to 12 in the fourth quarter, about halfway through, 5 minutes left or so. That's still a doable thing. And what happens? Paolo Banchero, I believe, missed a 3. Someone missed a 3. Get an offensive rebound, miss another 3. Make or miss shots, whatever. And then someone didn't get back, and Colin Sexton had a wide open layup, and that was the game. And you weren't coming back from that. It was just okay, you're not serious. You're just kind of, you had this little run, but it's not going anymore. The Magic, again, it's not necessarily anything the Jazz did. They played well. They made shots. They made some tough shots. They got to loose balls. I'm not taking anything away from them. This is about the Magic playing with better intensity, playing with better precision, playing with better effort, using their defense to launch their offense, and just being more resilient. Again, I was talking with Jonathan Osborne of the Six Man Show during the game, and we were talking about this. Can you believe? Can you believe this is the same team from December? And I was like, dude, I wrote an article in December saying, stop questioning what this team can do and just believe that they can do it. I need this team to believe that they're the team from December. Because frankly, I look in their eyes, I look at their body language, and I don't think they believe anymore. And again, forget all the other stuff. We know this team needs shooting. We know all that. That's where it has to start. They have to make shots. They have to believe they can do it. It's to me, the Magic's issue is all confidence. And that's why I wanted to emphasize the stars at the top of the show, because your confidence, your energy starts with your leaders. I know they're young. I know they're just coming back from injury. It's unfair to ask them to do so much. Their leaders have to set the tone. Their leaders have to lead the way right now. That is the only way they're getting out of this. And once that happens, I am still very confident the Magic will finish in the top 6 and not have to do the play-in. I am still I'm very, very confident they'll make the postseason. They'll be one of the top 10 teams. They're not going to fall that hard. Even the tanking teams, even the really bad teams from the last decade, they found a little bit of a groove. They would win a game every 4 or 5 games. They'd win 2 out of 5 or so. They might lose. They might have lost ground. They might have had some long losing streaks, but they found a little bit of a rhythm somewhere. We know there's a home schedule coming up after this road trip that the Magic are going to have to really do a good job at to put themselves back in the 4-5 race. But even a solid job on that's going to leave them feeling pretty good about being 6th. We could talk big picture stuff later, but this team's going nowhere if they don't believe. And we know they can. We know what they're capable of. We hold them to this high standard. We should hold them to this high standard. We should still believe. We should still say, we know you can do this. Go do it. It's on them to do it. I'm sorry. It's on them. Yes, I think Jamal Mosley needs to do some things offensively to make it easier for them. The reads just aren't there. Paolo is just not all there yet. And I think they're trying to treat Paolo like the player he should be, or the player like he is when he's healthy, and not the player that he is right now. So let's find a way to make Paolo successful, to kind of ease him back in. I know that's hard with this roster, but let's find out a way to do that. Franz has picked things up a lot quicker. Let's play through Franz. Franz is the alpha right now, if that means anything. Let's find ways to make this group successful as they are, rather than what they should be. We'll talk big picture stuff. We'll talk deadline stuff, I think, obviously throughout the week, but all that stuff kind of goes into that question as well. The Orlando Magic fall to the Utah Jazz 113-99. The road trip continues Monday in Golden State against the Golden State Warriors. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can follow me, of course, on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all Film Channel podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. I'll be cranking out some more trade deadline stuff coming up here starting tonight after I'm done recording this. But you can check that out at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub on the site now. In addition to my 3 takeaways that will be coming, sometime tomorrow or early tomorrow, hopefully. I break down the numbers behind the Magic's disastrous January. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I go into a little bit more detail on that on my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to me, be sure to check out the Locked On Magic Daily newsletter. Monday through Friday, it's the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start today with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back tomorrow to preview the week. It's a big week. We'll be back tomorrow then on Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.